to this conversation about prediction markets. My name is Joe Ewins. I'm an independent journalist. I've been covering the gambling industry for almost 20 years. I'm a new face to these iGaming exchanges, but if you're familiar with Hipster's various conferences over the years, you may have seen my face before. I've been privileged to moderate panels at their events many times, and delighted to say I'll be appearing regularly in the host seat for these events going forward. Looking forward to lots of interesting chats, no less than today, as we turn our attention to probably the hottest topic in gambling right now, which is prediction markets, and one of the most controversial, which is excellent. Will give us plenty to talk about. Joined by two excellent brains from the industry. We're going to be looking at prediction markets in general, what may be in store for the sector, but also as my guests primarily hail from the kind of supplier world as well, albeit in different forms, we'll give particular consideration to how prediction markets intersect with the B2B side of the equation in the gambling industry. But before we get into the discussion, I guess makes sense to have our panelists introduce themselves. Shmulik, why don't you go first?
Okay, so my name is Shmulik Segal. I'm the CEO of Media Troopers. Media Troopers is a paid media and affiliate company specialized in sports betting and iGaming in the regulated markets. Because we work with multiple operators and platforms, we get a closer look on how products evolve in the ecosystem and how customers behave to them.
Amazing. And Yoni?
I'm Yoni, 24 years in iGaming space. I'm currently the CEO of WizTech, which is a platform provider, B2B, and also CEO of Wimpot in Mexico, which is one of the fastest growing brands in Mexico, where we run all of the operation, not just the platform, but also the marketing. And our interest in prediction markets is that we've just gone live. We built it ourselves, or we've tried to build it ourselves to, I would say, relevant success. And we've just taken it live in Mexico.
Amazing stuff. That would be really interesting to dig into. I also thought, Yoni, you were about to say you were 24 years old, which would make me feel terrible, but
I wish. When I started with Shmulik, more or less in the same company, I was around about 24. Shmulik hasn't aged. He has no grey hairs. Me, on the other hand, it's aging not as good as I would like, but a long time in this industry.
Well, let's not make any predictions about how we might age. Let's talk about prediction markets instead, I guess. So we should probably start with the big question, which is sort of what the hell are we talking about? I'm assuming people watching know the basic concepts of prediction markets, but what I mean by that is it gambling or not in the traditional sense? Is it something a bit more in the trading space? I mean, where does it sit? I know this is a kind of controversial question, but we kind of have to address it, right? So, I mean, Yoni, you've just launched something. So, I mean, how do you see prediction markets and where they sit in the ecosystem?
I think it's a mixture of both. And I think that's how we've approached prediction models and prediction markets as well. So on one hand, we are trying to manage it as a standalone product. So separate it from sportsbook or from casino. But I think the obvious, crossovers between sports betting and trading, I think, are very, very clear. So I think from our perspective, we've tried to kind of fit like a Venn diagram to really try and put it in the middle of trading and sports betting, because we can't look at it just as sports betting. The customers are very much different, not just in how they act, but also what they're looking for, and they're not traders who are looking to buy it low and sell it expensive. So from a product perspective, I really think there's huge crossovers. And then I think also from a PR perspective, I think as the market has created this new environment, you do want to be a part of it, you don't want to be missing out. And I feel that we want to try and be in there as early as possible, especially as regulation is still trying to find its feet. I think you're better off to be there early and kind of go with the flow rather than wait to see what happens and then try and get in.
That makes sense. Shmulek, interested in your view in general, but also picking up on the point that Yoni made there about the customers maybe being a little bit different. You might have some additional insight to that on the affiliate side.
Yeah, so definitely. So I think that it sits somewhere in between in terms of product. Our view is one of the main reasons for the difference is the incentive model and the business model that the operator has. For a sportsbook, the operator is setting up the odds, managing the risk, creating a certain house edge against the bettor, while prediction products are a bit more like a trading marketplace. The operator, the relevant operator, is actually taking a fee out of each and every transaction. We believe that part of this behavior create the feeling for the customers that they are actually traders rather than that are looking to market insight, looking for the statistics, rather than the recreational users that we usually see in sports betting. From what is interesting from affiliate side, that we are driving already traffic to prediction market products, and we see both customers. We see both customers who are looking for the recreational element of it. Maybe it comes also because sportsbook is not regulated in all the markets, but definitely we see recreational customers, but we also see much more of a sophisticated customers that are looking for data, looking for statistics, and looking for the financial side of things. So in a way, this is how we see the product. The product, in a way, is a combination of the two. We see overlapping with iGaming, but definitely the business model and the economics behind it and the customers that are coming create it as a distinct product than sportsbook and iGaming.
Shmulek, are you seeing in maybe that group of customers that went to the traditional iGaming customers, are you seeing overlap with people that have been historically quite interested in cryptocurrency?
We definitely see that. We see customers that are feeling more comfortable with the elements of cryptocurrency. And what is interesting that we see from one end, we have FanDuel, DraftKings, BetFanatics as well, integrating already those prediction markets product to their platform. But we also see Crypto.com. We see Robinhood that are also joining and offering prediction markets product. And those products bringing with them those customers that look into cryptocurrency, into trading, feel very comfortable with those elements of the world and not just pure sports betting.
Very interesting. Yoni, there's a slightly leading question, but only because the Gambling Commission in the UK recently wrote a bit about prediction markets, and they said, well, if one was to launch here, it would probably have to be regulated like a betting exchange. I mean, what's your view of that sort of approach to understanding prediction markets? Is it fair to say that they're very similar to betting exchanges, or do you think there's a degree of difference?
I think eventually we'll fall under the kind of the umbrella of gambling in general. I think I often see with the regulators, and now obviously we're not just talking about the UKGC, but also in the US, it seems to me that, as we've seen in the past, that they can respond in a more fragmented way. And I think as the operators kind of evolve and they get more data, then they may consolidate into a more harmonized approach. I think GC, they publicly actually they said that prediction markets will be available throughout the UK, and I think it has set the view on them. So I think it shows that the mainstream, the regulators, are looking to engage in the product, but I still don't think they fully understand it. And I think we saw also in the US recently, I think it was last month, maybe the end of January, that the CFTC initially made a proposal and then they withdrew it. So it kind of tells us that they're still trying to define what this product is. I think in the meantime, I don't want to say let's make hay while the sun shines, but I think operators need to try and take advantage of this opportunity, obviously working in gam care, being aware of the users. But I think it is something that you did say before, targeting a different audience, the crypto audience, which is also a younger audience. I think for a lot of us, it's very, very, very important. And I think we just need to see what boards like the UKGC and in the US are going to eventually do. But I think it's going to take time. I think they need to fully understand what the product is, where it's going to sit. And that might be dependent on the operators to decide where they're going to place that product and how they treat that product. If it's going to be a mainstream, like a Polymarket or Cashly or whatever it may be, it's just going to be kind of a third wheel as a retention tool. So I think we need to see what the operator's going to do. How I imagine it's going to happen, I think this is going to explode. I think this type of vertical is extremely appealing to the younger audience, to the crypto audience that you said. And I think a lot of these brands have struggled to speak to or try and take users away from the stakes and the VCs. So I think this is a bridge that they may use to do that. But in terms of the regulators, I think they're going to be kind of behind the curve, behind the nine ball in this, and I think they're going to be more reactive than proactive.
No, it's very, very interesting. And your point about appealing to a younger audience is very interesting. I've sat through a lot of gambling conferences. I'm a millennial, and I remember sitting through a lot of them and hearing companies say, we've got to figure out how to appeal to millennials. And I was in my 30s at this point thinking, you missed the boat there, I think. Yeah. I don't know if gambling companies ever really figured out uniquely how to appeal to millennials, but it does feel like maybe this space, as you say, touching in the crypto area, does it perhaps appeal to Gen Z in a way that's unique and different. Does that ring true?
For us, yes. I'm saying it as an operator who is operating a brand in Mexico, and we are competing with, I'd like to say, millennial-facing brands, just really good, exciting brands that you can understand why they would kind of resonate with the millennials and the younger users. And I think if 2 and a bit decades in this industry has taught us anything, that you do always need to be looking for the next generation that will come through. And that today needs to come in the form of entertainment and product development and UI and UX. Whereas I think the generation past, they were looking for mobile-friendly applications, quick payouts. This has all been done, and now it's been rather simple, and we should have had that at the beginning. Well, I think now the challenge that brands like mine and other more legacy brands, especially in the UK, where you are, if you look at the top 4 or 5 brands, they may struggle to appeal to that younger audience. They are, if you think of a William Hill or a Ladbrokes or Betfred, or you think, okay, bookmaker, retail high street, betting shop and everything that entailed. If you're going to bet on the Grand National, you're going to go to the shop and take your slip. Those days are gone. Very sad for me, because I very much enjoyed that time. Reminiscing back to my first bet. So I think product development is extremely difficult to do in iGaming, because how many new slot machines can you have? How many new variations of live gaming can you have? How many crash games can you have? Where here we've been given this opportunity to have a totally different product that does resonate with several different segments of a target audience that you may be looking for. So you do have the sports bettors, you do have the traders, you do have the ability to speak to that younger generation that you're trying to get to. And if you can lay on top of that a very good UI, very good UX, experience for the user to be good, easy onboarding, everything else that you do in and around that, then I think it is a real opportunity.
Shmulik, is that your experience as well, that it's appealing to kind of maybe a younger segment than some other areas of gambling?
So an important part of prediction markets that it is regulated in the US under different regulation. The regulation in the US is on a state level, while sports betting, exactly the opposite. The regulation for prediction markets is on the federal level, while for sports betting on a state level. So this is definitely a challenge, one challenge. And the reason that I'm bringing it up, that the current regulation for prediction markets is 18 plus, while the regulation for sports betting is 21 plus. So already in that sense, the product is available to a much younger generation. So you can actually, in the US, you can trade in prediction market platform before you are legally allowed to drink. So definitely it's pushing a much younger audience that is definitely more savvy to cryptocurrencies, to other products, to everything that relates to that, of course, much more mobile and technology oriented. So yes, it should attract a younger audience. Of course, the audience itself is also much more interested in other stuff than sports betting, whether it is cryptocurrency, whether it is trading other elements, whether it is predicting who is going to win the Oscar. It's still the vast majority, it's very important to say the vast majority of transaction in Kalshi and Poly market are related to sports and sports betting events, but there is a growing segment of element that is not related to sports betting at all.
Very interesting. That takes us neatly on to talking a bit more about regulation, I think. Shmulik, I'll stay with you, as particularly you have kind of a fair amount of experience in the US market with predictions. I mean, we could obviously, I think we could talk for hours about the regulatory kind of response to prediction markets in the US. It's as you say, the kind of federal versus state thing is very complex. Where do you see this going, if it's possible to summarize in maybe a year's time? I mean, how will this interplay between state regulators and federal regulators, between the maybe entrenched casino industry and companies that are doing these innovating with these prediction markets? Where do you see this going?
It's very complicated to say when it comes to the US regulation. Sometimes you feel they're going to act fast, sometimes you feel that they're going to act slow. In general, when it comes to regulation, and I think very similar to what we just said at UKGC, the product comes first, and then the regulation is trying to catch up with the innovation. So now the regulators need to decide whether they consider it as a financial product, as a gaming product, or something in between. For example, even institutions like NFL have decided that during the Super Bowl, there won't be any commercials related to prediction markets. So Kalshi and Poly markets were not allowed to have any commercial within the NFL broadcasting events. Of course, through TikTok, through Meta, they could have promoted because it wasn't limited. It's very hard to say where the regulation is taking us. I just returned for iGaming Next New York last week, and I was speaking as well about this subject. And one of the things that I mentioned is that 2 years ago, the main discussions when it comes to the US was around sweepstakes. And then we see how regulation changed the entire narrative around this product and how things are changed. And it's very, very complicated to estimate what is going to happen. Another interesting point that was raised about that element, that one of the main people that are sitting in the board of those companies is the son of Trump. So you can view it maybe as a good thing, but you can also view it that within almost 3 years there are going to be elections, and maybe if it's going to be a Democrat rather than a Republican, it might also affect the regulation. So it's very, very hard to say. And it's very difficult for me to estimate how we're going to speak about prediction markets in 2 years' time.
No, that was a good answer to an extremely difficult question.
Yeah, you did very well there.
Yeah.
Just add to that, I do find it funny how the NFL did block prediction market adverts, but then you have major news corporations actually quoting prediction markets for odds on a wide variety of topics, not just sports related, but they can also be politically related, who's going to win the next election, the midterms, stuff about the war in Iran. So I do find that funny how some people can use prediction markets as kind of an authoritative figure, a voice of reason, but other institutions decide to kind of shy away from it. But we'll see where that goes, I suppose.
I think that their specific take was more on the legal side of things, that they were concerned of having commercials in relevant states that might consider it as illegal. And I think this is the reason. I don't think that they came from the moral side of things, but rather that there is no clear regulatory aspect of the product. I don't think, you can see commercials on other products that I wouldn't consider very healthy to customers during the Super Bowl. So I think they came more of the legal side of things rather than the morality side of things.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, I think sports integrity is going to weigh quite heavily on this debate going forward. I would have thought that America tends to be extremely sensitive to that sort of thing. We've seen quite a few controversies, including with the NFL, with players betting on matches. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out from a regulatory perspective. Yoni, your experience in Mexico then, I mean, where do you sit in the regulatory space in Mexico? I mean, I'm aware that the Mexican legislation is quite strange. It goes back a long way, and it's kind of jury-rigged iGaming industry. So I'd imagine it doesn't neatly slot into anything. But I mean, in terms of your experience from the regulatory side of things, where are you sitting?
So you quite rightly said the Mexican gaming regulation, it's about 80 years behind where it should be. And it really is around 80 years behind. They're now undergoing a form of restructure, but it kind of seems like they're shooting from the hips and just trying to see what they can get rather than having a long-term vision for how best to regulate iGaming in Mexico. And prediction models and markets, they're not on their radar at the moment. I don't imagine they will be anytime soon. Often America will sneeze and Mexico will catch a cold, but very, very much a long way down the line. That could be between 5 and 10 years. And a lot of it will depend on if other mainstream brands, regulated brands, decide to go with this model and implement such a product or develop such a product themselves and become and make it more kind of in the mainstream iGaming sports betting sector. So for now, how we've approached it is that it's grey, it's in between. We don't rub it in people's faces yet, because I don't think also the Mexico audience are quite aware of what prediction markets are. They haven't been overly exposed to the brands that are currently working in the US, for example, even in the news. And part of that is down to the fact that most of the news at the moment is talking about the new tax that they just put in place. So increasing the gambling tax, gaming tax from 30% to 50%. And in none of those new regulations have they ever once spoken about prediction markets. So for us, we've launched it. I can't say that the Mexican audience have swarmed to us and said, what is this product? We've never seen it before. But those that are playing, the feedback we're having is like, oh, this is really, really nice. There has been an element of having to educate the market on exactly what it is and what you're betting on. Obviously, in the UK, we had Betfair when we were growing up, so we do kind of understand the whole liquidity section of gambling and what comes with that. So I think it's going to be very, very slow in Mexico. Like I said, I'm glad we are there early. We're looking at ways because we really do like the product. I love prediction markets. I use it for pretty much everything, whether it be betting on the Oscars last night or other types of bets or contracts that you can take. So I think it will take time. We would like to be one of the first to educate a regulated brand, to educate the market on what it is, and hoping we'll be in the right place at the right time. But it's not really an expensive product to develop. So the actual cost of trying to launch this product in Mexico it's not like it's a big risk. Once we see that the product has enough traction and we do see that our users are using it more, then we can see how we can do some external marketing around it. But for now, it's kind of the third wheel. We're seeing how it goes, and we are trying to not have too many markets that are not sports related. We don't want to. We have a license for sport betting and casino, so if we can keep it under the umbrella of sports betting in terms of the markets that you can choose, we also think that would also make sure that we're compliant.
Got it. Thank you. We're talking about kind of prediction markets outside the US. I don't know, just look if you have a view on this, but obviously the focus of most of the attention conversation about prediction markets has been in the US. But do you think this segment has a kind of global reach? And I mean, are you seeing interest, you think, in other jurisdictions around the world in embracing predictions markets?
Very similar to other products in the world. A lot of them are actually originating from US innovation. So definitely I see it. I can tell you that in my country of origin, in Israel, it's very interesting. These products are very, very interesting and are being followed a lot. There is a lot of interest coming from those elements of the world that we mentioned, those people that are actually trading and looking into those elements rather than the sports betting side. We see a big discussion of integrating Wall Street to be part of prediction markets as well. And this definitely has a ripple effect all around the world. So as long as this product will manage to become regulated, I think it will have attraction all over the world. And definitely the challenge is integrity. Very similar to any different trading markets, the challenge is integrity. And those products are already aware of that and are looking for solutions. Polymarket recently made an agreement with Palantir, a major AI company, to review customer behavior in order to do some of these parts and find those kind of users that are jeopardizing the integrity of the platform. So assuming we can create a healthy environment where a customer are engaged and active, definitely it's going to be worldwide and not just in the US.
Great. Fascinating. Right. So we I said we were going to talk about the B2B segment, so we should. Yoni, if I come to you first on this, just thinking about from a kind of raw opportunity point of view, I mean, what kind of new avenues does this open up, do you think, for suppliers, the kind of growth of prediction markets?
From a B2B perspective?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're also a B2B operator. And I think the best way to explain it is when we have numerous brands using our platform, and kind of drip fed that, we've developed this product, it's live in Mexico, and showed them examples and how it's working. Every single one of that was like, right, we want it. And obviously an element to that is, it's sexy, it's being talked about, it's in the mainstream news. Someone can have it, let's take it first of all. First of all, we take, and then we see that what we can do with it. From a B2B perspective, we are still trying to figure out ourselves where this sits. Like I said before, is it a separate product? Is it just an add-on? Is it a form of a retention tool? So from a commercial perspective, I think, until the B2C side of the business really figured out what they're going to do, not the top brands, not the Polymarkets and the Kalshis, but the ones under that. I think from a B2B perspective, it's very difficult for us to say, okay, we are now going to only do prediction product, because our bread and butter is still with iGaming and sports betting. So we're still looking at it for now as a third wheel. And I think with a lot of B2B brands that we have in the world today, it's, a lot of them are casino first and have a sports book just because it's good for acquisition. Your CPAs will be lower, and then you try and cross-sell. I would imagine from a B2B perspective, that is the way that the industry will go. I can't see many brands being able to lead with a prediction model as their kind of flagship. Similar to sports betting, if you look at the biggest sports books in the world, they are sports books that have casino. From a B2B side, you're dealing with affiliates, media owners, people that have traffic, people that have database or whatever it may be, that they say, okay, let's have another product we can use for lower level acquisition or even for retention. Now, that doesn't mean, especially from our side, that the UI, UX, the front end, I still think needs to have a lot of time, a lot of effort, be well thought through, because I really believe that the prediction market will just increase in popularity. And I think eventually everyone will want to have one. And like I said, the cost of having one isn't that expensive. You can have, sometimes you have platforms that can be super expensive. You can have add-on products that be super expensive. Here it's not. Obviously, your risk is much lower because you're just taking a rate or a fee, like Shmulik quite rightly suggested. And it comes down to what quality of product can you actually offer, and that comes down to what contracts you have listed, how they priced, how you are settling, even small things that, again, only because I'm quite an avid user, but how disputes are handled when something kind of sits in the middle, stuff about abuse, because a lot of this is peer-to-peer. So I still think that we have a long way to go as a B2B operator. Can you generate the liquidity needed to make sure that people can interact with each other and become market makers? Because without liquidity, it's a gimmick. Then where do you get this liquidity from? And it goes back to the days of poker where you had to have networks. Shmulik knows very, very well from his days in the past when he was managing bingo. You need to have that liquidity and that ability to interact with other customers. And once you have that, obviously you have the front end, then you have the liquidity, then you have the market making, then you need the payments and the wallets. Normal traditional brands may not have crypto, for example. In some markets, crypto may not be permitted. So I think once you have those kind of pillars, you can start building the foundations. At the same time, you're always looking over the shoulder and checking the compliance side of it and seeing where does compliance take us? What do I need to do? So the product that you do build as a B2B needs to be kind of rigid enough to make changes, any compliance issues that may come up. So for us, I think the opportunity, it's not just kind of who offers the market, but I think for us, it's who becomes the picks channel provider for this ecosystem. And I think we're still trying to figure that out from a B2B side. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I love the product. I love that we've built it. But I think we need to see which way the wind blows and take a lot of feedback from our current partners and let them kind of be the guinea pigs and see what they can do with it at the same time running in Mexico.
That makes a lot of sense. I think everyone's in a process of discovery on this from all sides of things. Shmulik, what's your view on the kind of the B2B opportunity that predictions markets present?
So first of all, just listening to Yoni, I think it's quite obvious that from B2B suppliers' perspective, the opportunities here are vast. There are so many things that can be done here, and it is a very new product that have many layers that needs to be developed and need to be considered. In terms of opportunities, I think that one of the two major opportunities will be for platforms and infrastructures to be able to generate that liquidity that this kind of product needs, to be able to educate the customers to this new product. So if platforms, the ones that will be able to do these elements of creating the liquidity and educate the customers, this is definitely a major opportunity for B2B suppliers. In terms of payments, as you mentioned before, Joe, these are customers that are very much aware of cryptocurrencies and are interested in that. So this element of payments and how to settle payments with users is going to be a very big opportunity for that as well. Media Troopers, as a company, we see a very important part of affiliates to create betting and prediction tools, education tools that can come very handy to this new market. So this is definitely another area where we see a B2B potential to grow in. But as said, I think the major thing here is to be able to create that liquidity, to be able to create that education and engagement with the customers is going to be a major part of the ones that are going to succeed here. Yoni and I, again, we are very much veterans in this industry, and I think both Yoni and I remember the fact that when it came to poker, the liquidity was the first and most important element. And all those infrastructures were always measured by the number of active customers within them. And I believe this will be a major part of to decide where the customer would like to end up with what kind of product will be related to the liquidity within that market that product has to offer.
Seeing as you've invoked liquidity, both of you, and talked about poker, maybe obvious question is shared liquidity like we've seen attempts to do in online poker? Is that something that we think could ever creep into the prediction space?
I think it will have to, and again, I have experience, as does Shmulik, with poker. And again, I'm not an oracle, but my idea, and again, as someone who uses these products, I think there will be a larger social element to them. I think there will be much more peer-to-peer chatting. It's very different from Betfair in 2007, where you literally had light blue, pink, bet, and I think the world has evolved. I think we like to interact, we like to communicate, and for me, liquidity will be a key element. And obviously, as we all know, to gain that liquidity is extremely difficult or extremely expensive, or both. And I think back in the day, a lot of these poker networks and bingo networks, what they did very, very well was to have that ability to create a shared liquidity pool that you can delve into. And you see it today in a lot of casual games and things like that. So I think it will be extremely important how that evolves and where that's going to kind of evolve from. It's very difficult for me to say. Will it be US-led? Will it be European-led? I imagine it'll be US-led. But then Scandinavians always surprise us and come up with a product in the end. So I think yes. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I'll be very surprised in 18 months if we don't have kind of the beginning of such an environment.
Very interesting. Shmulik, is that your kind of sense of it as well?
So at the moment, Polymarket already signed few B2B agreements that are already in place. One of the DFS 2.0 products, Underdog, is already implementing prediction market within their product that is actually based on Crypto.com prediction market. And so it is going to be a very big part, I think, a B2B element of multiple websites or apps that are offering shared liquidity markets. I think what is interesting for me, and I have no idea how it's going to develop, whether it's going to be similar to poker, whereby you are actually tapping into one network, or products will actually tap into multiple, I would say, liquidity places where they will offer markets from Crypto.com, but will offer also standalone markets or markets from Polymarket at the same time. And it might also be the evolution of this product. It's very interesting where it went. For example, the one that I gave before, Underdog, they have taking the liquidity of Crypto.com, but they also just obtained their own CFTC license for another company, and they will offer in parallel some of the prediction markets only for themselves. So it's very interesting where it's going to evolve, but definitely it's going to be a combination of places where they have their own standalone liquidity and shared liquidity as well. Is now being experimented. Let's see how it goes.
Shmulik, do you think that's are we in a process of people kind of throwing things at the wall at the moment and figuring out what sticks? It sounds like people are trying lots of different things.
100%, 100%. We are on the very early stages of this product, and many of the ones that we mentioned, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetFanatics, the sports books of the world, didn't really actually start. They are on very, very early stages. Kalshi is very active. Polymarket is still not full-blown from marketing perspective in the US. And many products are going to be evolved, and I believe that there is still very long way to go in terms of what kind of products are going to be, what kind of features within the product are going to be the ones that are actually the killer features.
Yoni, kind of on that point as well. I mean, you talked about sharing liquidity. I guess we're talking maybe in the operators that are a little bit below the kind of big hitters, but are we looking at a future then potentially? I'm aware the predictions are risky business, but are we looking at a kind of landscape where products compete more on things like UX, on kind of speed of withdrawal, things like that, like settling disputes like you talked about?
I think so, yes. I don't think us as operators, we can assume or rely that we can just plug in a prediction market onto a sportsbook, onto a casino, and expect, magic money will just fall from the skies. One of the main reasons I think is because the profile of the user is vastly different from what you have today. You have potentially financial people. You have people maybe that are I don't know, politically engaged, or data, crypto. I mean, it's you're not talking about people who want to bet on sports, and you have to cater. You have to cater to them, and I think that changes a lot of things about UI, UX. Sometimes you have users who care more about the information edge than actual betting with a brand. And for me, the UI and UX definitely needs to be kind of given full attention, and not just here's a product, let's plug it in. 99% of the people will just take that product, plug it in, and say, okay, let's see how we can cross-sell or acquire to that user. But even the acquisition is, for me, and Shmulik will know better because he's on that side of the fence, but the acquisition would also need to be different. It would be less around betting, but more about kind of an informed opinion. Instead of bet now, trade now, or the ability to react to news in real time. A lot of the markets and contracts that are offered. So it does need to be treated differently. Those that would excel in this space will treat this as standalone, will give it the resources, the time, the infrastructure, and the investment that it's needed. Those that just want it to be a third wheel, it will be exactly that. They may not invest the time on generating lots of markets, investing on building their own liquidity, and investing on real A/B testing for UX. This product, let's see what it does. But those like Polymarkets obviously invest millions into the product. It definitely shows. So I think you will have the top guys that will invest in this, and I think the rest of us, and I say us because we're still trying to figure out where this is going to go, that will just have it as a kind of, this is what it is. It will probably have a similar look and feel to the main product. If that product is blue, red, and white, then that would also be the same. And then you have to say, okay, if we have the same product, where can we try and cheaply differentiate? And that would be stuff like easy onboarding, very transparent rules on settlement, simple education for the market. So for me, that will kind of be the backdoor way that we will look at it, and obviously to have enough depth for advanced users at the same time without kind of scaring the casual ones. So it will be extremely difficult. It will need time, resources, a lot of A/B testing, not just from a front end, but also from an actual product perspective as well. And how does that relate into your acquisition, your marketing strategy? Do you need to shy away from the core message that you have as a brand. You know, where do you want to be? Do you want to be prediction first, sports first? So it can become complicated. But like I said, I think those that will be solely focused on prediction markets will be those that excel, and the rest will use it as a nice to have.
Interesting. Yeah, I just wonder if you could pick up on that topic as well, and in particular what Yoni mentioned about the differentiation in acquisition.
So in Media Troopers, we see both kinds of customers coming into this product. We see those are more interested in the trading market aspect of things, but we also see the recreational users that are coming from the sports betting view of the world and those kind of things. So the UX is very challenging here because from one end, you have these customers that are looking for the more complex and sophisticated side of prediction markets. And you have those that are coming more from the recreational side of the world. Also, in terms of the product itself, sometimes their users are coming from a different aspect. So if we talked about the ones that are coming from crypto.com, these kinds of users might look for a different UX than the new plan for DraftKings to create a super app where you have all the products in one umbrella, where they're actually navigating between sports betting, iGaming, daily fantasy product. So they need to adjust to that. So definitely UX is going to be a very important part of how customers are being educated, how customers are being onboarded, and it's definitely something that each and every either B2B or B2C supplier needs to look into. Us as affiliates as well, we need to create that environment that educate the right players to the right product according to that. And I think that in terms of educating and responsible gaming elements, affiliates are going to have a very big part of this new developed product.
Interesting. And we'll pick up on the last thing. One of the last things you mentioned there, the responsible gambling side of things. I mean, Yoni, is that as prediction markets currently exist in a kind of, I would say, pseudo-regulated space, depends on which market you're in. I mean, are there risks around RG as regulations are sort of while they're in this kind of nascent stage, not fully formed yet? Do you think there's a risk there of something going wrong and adverse headlines and that sort of thing?
There always is, especially in my industry, when you have people that look to exploit an opportunity for bad and look to make a quick buck rather than seeing the potential here to have a new, fresh product to add to our suite of products that we currently have. And this product can be, if treated correctly, can be used either as a great acquisition tool, on par with sports betting in terms of cost per user. It can be used as a great retention tool, as opposed to, especially in today's industry where a lot of people have the same stuff, gamification, leaderboards, tournaments, all these things that are very, very nice and users do like. But now you have kind of another feather that you can put in your hat. But yes, it will always be tarnished by a few. And the same with sweepstakes. Sweepstakes that Shmulik said we were talking about a year ago. People came in, tried to exploit an opportunity, and for that reason, the regulators have to get involved and have to make regulation based on what's happened rather than the bigger picture, and how decision and how best to regulate a certain industry. So I believe that it's natural that people will come in and say, okay, great product, let's see how we can exploit it. And this would be, as bad as people not being paid out or things like that would just really leave a bad taste on the end user's mind, and of course that would force regulators to become involved. So I imagine it will happen, sadly, but obviously the vast majority will look at this as an opportunity, and rightly so, and how best to monetize this opportunity, not just for the product itself, but also how best to use this product for the benefit of the end user, because that end user can bet with you, me, him, anyone. If you can take these products, manage them correctly, treat them with the love and care that they need, then it's a great opportunity that needs to be taken, and we intend to do as such, and hopefully ignore the noise, or the noise will be relatively small because of it's such a new market that it won't have an effect, but I'm skeptical if that will be the case.
I mean, Smilik, do you think, affiliates have a role in that kind of conversation around responsible gambling with or responsible trading, depending on how you look at the predictions markets? And maybe, do you think affiliates can help to kind of direct, as well as educating consumers, can sort of direct them towards the operators that maybe are going to treat them with a bit more care?
First of all, I think the basic essence of this product is very much, has very good basis for responsible gaming. You can, first of all, start in very low stakes when you join in. The fact that it is peer-to-peer and not against an operator or against a platform is a great advantage. Liquidity, which make things more balanced and more clear, are good. And the fact that the incentives themselves for the operators is the level of a fee out of the transaction actually pushes for educating the user, making sure the user is aware, active, and engaged. I think those basic elements can make this product very good for responsible gaming side. All the basic element of deposit limits, loss limits, cool-off period, the ability to track the user behavior, this can create a product that is very safe in the future. I don't think it is that place now, but in the future, for the user to be a very safe environment for the user. Affiliates always have a place in that area, and affiliates also aware that these kind of users that are actually the ones that now operators are looking for. They are looking for the ones that will be engaged, that they want to stay for a long period, the ones that are sophisticated. So it's a very different kind of profile for a user, and very similar to other products that we had in the past. This is where affiliates come in, and they want to bring to the operators the one that will have these traits, and so they can educate them, bring them a bit more aware of the elements that can be used within this product. So definitely affiliates are going to take a very big part in educating the customer, whether through sites, through apps, through betting and analysis tools. So there are a lot of opportunities for affiliate in this market as well.
Interesting, thank you. We're approaching the end of our time. I think you guys have already answered the question of where you think prediction markets might be in a few years' time. So I'm going to ask a wrap-up question in a slightly different way. It's not unfeasible to imagine that the political situation in the US might be very different after the next election, perhaps less friendly to predictions markets overall. What do you think the kind of this growing sector needs to do to make sure that, let's say, if the political winds change, it is an established segment that can kind of stand on its own 2 feet? Yoni, if I go to you first.
Of not being an expert on American politics, but I don't even think it comes out to its elections as close as November. The Republicans may lose the midterms and they may be sitting ducks anyway. Now, I don't think, even if we look at either the midterms or the next elections, I don't think there's enough time for this product to gain enough traction to be mainstream media, to have enough kind of lobbying behind it to make sure that any regulation is the correct regulation, is in the benefit of the end user and the operator itself, not either or. Because I think a lot of these regulations that happened in the past, once you see that they are one-sided, then the other side kind of drops off a cliff. So if we're going to take America as kind of the the center of all of this. I think it's going to stay on a low flame between now and then. Like I said, I think more and more operators will start bringing the product to the market, and only then will we start seeing a reaction from lawmakers in the US. And I said it before, they will always be reactive rather than proactive. They have many other things on their mind, especially in America at the moment, that they would deem to be far more important than trying to regulate a product that they have no idea what it is or where it's going to be. A large proportion of operators also have no idea or where it's going to be. But I think what is important is that these lawmakers, they shouldn't treat prediction markets as kind of a gimmick, or even as a threat. The smart people, I think, with all regulation, they just stop trying to argue it or label it as this or that, and actually trying to understand the product itself. And it really is a great product. It's betting, it's trading, it's taking a long-term view. If you're betting on a football game, that could be over in up to 90 minutes, but here you could take a position that could last weeks or months. Schmick also something that's very, very true and very, very important, that the security around the user, it's peer-to-peer, so the interest of the book isn't to manipulate the odds. The cost of entry is low for the end user, so the risk of gambling problems is diminished. So I mentioned that we've got 18 months to go minimum until regulators start waking up. It will depend where America is politically at that time. Schmidt said that the Trump family are involved in this. That could very easily change come November. So for me, it's wait and see. I would love to see, for once, regulators take the right approach, the smart approach, engage with people who are actually operating. So speak to the guys at Polymarket or Kalshu, any others guys, and ask for their opinion. Ask them to help legislate. Ask them to give opinions based on facts and data, and the best way to legislate that, and not try and think that they can do it themselves, sitting behind a wooden desk, having never touched this product or many other products that are similar. So yes, that would be where I would imagine it's going to go.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. Shmulik, your view.
So I want to take something that Yoni said about the proactiveness of the operators, which is, I think, a very, very important element of what's going to happen in the meantime. It's very difficult to predict where the regulator is going to take things and what exactly is going to take action in the US. We have the states' iGaming regulators, we have the CFTC, we have elements that there is very good chance will end up in courts. But I think the important thing is that healthy ecosystems are the ones that platforms are able to keep users engaged and active over time. And I think this is the thing that is very important from the operators now in the space, to create a healthy, engaged, and safe environment for the users, which will make it easy for the regulator to take it to the right side towards this product and not against it, and not wait for the regulator to decide on the rules. So if the current operators, the current platform, will look how to make this very safe environment for the user, this will probably make the life of the regulator much easier.
Very, very interesting. Thank you both, Yoni and Shmulik. Really, really interesting conversation. Thank you to those of you that you were watching. I hope you found it engaging, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Stay safe.